So, what if I told you the best way to measure a country's progress isn't its GDP, but the quality of your morning? Today, we're diving into a citizen's manifesto for India that kicks off with one simple but incredibly powerful question.
That question really hits home for millions, doesn't it? That feeling that even after you paid your taxes, you're still paying again and again, like some kind of rent, just to get by. So let's get into it. Why does this happen? And more importantly, what can we do about it?
Okay, so to really get this, let's meet a guy named Rajesh. He lives in a slick, modern apartment in Hyderabad. He's got a great view of the skyline. On paper, he is the poster child for India's success story. But his morning routine, well, that tells a completely different story.
What you're seeing here, this is the reality. It's a daily, grinding system failure. Before the guy's even had his first cup of chai, he's dealing with the delayed water tanker, air so polluted his daughter's coughing, and his phone is buzzing with alerts for all the money leaving his account, for things his taxes should have already covered.
And this is really the heart of the whole argument here. This isn't Rajesh's fault. It's not about one person's bad luck. The problem is baked right into the system. It's a failure of how our national and state budgets are designed and what they choose to prioritize.
Which brings us to this really powerful idea, something called the survival tax. This is the hidden, everyday cost millions of us pay. And trust me, you won't find this line item on any official tax form.
Now, seriously, think about it. Every time you have to buy a water purifier because the tap water's dodgy, or an air purifier because you can't breathe the air outside, or you're paying for private school because the public one just isn't cutting it, that's it. That's you paying the survival tax. It's the cost of all these private coping mechanisms.
So, what's the bill? How much are we talking about here? Well, for a family like Rajesh's, it comes out to a jaw-dropping 5,65,000 rupees a year. That's an extra, totally invisible tax paid right on top of all the official ones.
And look, we're not talking about fancy dinners or vacations here. This is for the absolute basics. 1,80,000 for private school because public education isn't good enough. Over 2 lakhs for a second vehicle because public transport is unreliable or unsafe. This is the itemized bill for systemic failure.
Let's put that in perspective. If you're earning, say, 18 lakhs a year, your official income tax might be around 8%. But that survival tax? It's eating up a massive 31% of your income. Get this, you're paying 4 times more to patch up the holes in the system than you are in actual official income tax. You're not just living in a city, you're surviving an expensive simulation of one.
Okay, so right now you might be thinking, all right, I get it. This is a city problem, a middle-class problem. But that's where you'd be mistaken. The argument is that this crisis in our cities is deeply, deeply connected to a parallel crisis happening in our villages. They're two sides of the same coin.
Let's bring in Rajesh's uncle, Ramesh. He's a farmer. While Rajesh is stuck in traffic breathing in fumes, Ramesh is out there fighting to save his soil from being ruined by subsidized fertilizers. While Rajesh pays for water tankers to fill his tank, Ramesh watches the groundwater level on his farm just disappear. They're both stuck in a broken system that values short-term fixes over real, long-term health.
So, if the modern way of doing things is failing both the city and the village, what's the alternative? Where do we look? Well, the manifesto argues that we don't actually need to invent something brand new. We just need to remember something we forgot. What's amazing is that ancient India had these incredibly smart solutions for things we now have fancy names for, like watershed management or urban green infrastructure. Temple tanks were brilliant rainwater harvesting systems. Sacred groves were like mini forests that acted as the city's lungs. And the whole philosophy was about a balanced life, not just chasing a bigger GDP number. This isn't about being nostalgic, you guys. This is about looking at policy that actually worked for centuries.
Which, leads to a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? If these systems were so smart, so sustainable, and created a sense of balance, why on earth did we walk away from them? It's a question that's worth sitting with for a minute. And that reflection leads us straight to a real, tangible solution, a totally new way to measure how our country is doing. It's called the Dharmic Development Index. Now, Dharmic here doesn't mean something purely religious. Think of it more like a holistic, balanced approach, development that's fair, sustainable, and actually works for people. Just imagine for a second a finance minister standing up in Parliament and starting their budget speech like this. Can you feel that shift? It's a move away from just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet to talking about what really matters, real improvements in the lives of actual citizens.
So this is it, the Dharmic Development Index, or DDI. It's brilliant because it takes these big, ancient ideas and turns them into stuff we can actually measure. So Prakriti, or nature, isn't some vague concept. It's measured by the number of good air quality days a year. Samaj, community, becomes about how much public space we all have. Swasthya, health, is about cutting down wait times at clinics. It creates clear, simple, life-focused goals. It makes progress real.
Okay, so a new index is a fantastic idea, but how do we actually make it happen? How do we go from a concept to reality? Well, the manifesto doesn't just stop there. It actually gives us, the citizens, a practical toolkit to demand this change.
And that's where this 4-step toolkit comes in. It's all about building pressure from the ground up. You start by asking your MP for a life quality statement, not just a list of expenses. Use RTI to find out, say, how many of the saplings planted in your neighborhood actually survived. You create a scorecard for your own ward and share it. It's about dragging governance out of those big, distant offices and making it local, making it accountable.
And really, this is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. True democracy isn't a one-day event you show up for every 5 years. It's about active, constant engagement. It's about being vigilant every single quarter.
So as we wrap this up, the manifesto leaves us with this really profound idea, a total reframing of what a budget is. It is not just an Excel sheet. It's not just a technical document for economists to argue about.
It's more than that. It's a moral document. It is a promise from the state to its citizens, a promise of safety, of dignity, of opportunity. A promise that, let's be honest, feels broken for way too many people.
And this final vision for a developed India, it just nails the whole point. Real development isn't just about shiny skyscrapers. It's about the invisible infrastructure that makes life worth living. Clean water, breathable air, good schools. It's a nation where your taxes fund your comfort, not just someone else's contract.
And so, we're left with this one last question. What if people like Rajesh in the city and farmers like Ramesh in the village, what if we all came together and started demanding the kind of morning that we deserve? What would that India look like? The argument here isn't that this is some far-off dream. It's that this future is right there, totally within our reach, if we just decide to demand it.